Good evening and welcome. The Eastham Conservation Commission will hold a hybrid public meeting on Tuesday, July 28th, 2026 at 6 p.m. pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, MGL Chapter 30A, Sections 18 to 25, Open Meeting Law, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 155 of the Code of the Town of Eastham, Eastham Wetlands Protection Bylaw. This meeting is being broadcast on Public Chat Access Channel 8. It will be rebroadcast on Channel 8 and meeting videos will be available on YouTube. Before we begin, a quick reminder. While our meetings are relatively informal, the Commission uses a simplified version of Robert's Rules. The chair runs the meeting and everyone should speak through the chair after being recognized. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak. We allow discussion between commissioner, staff, and applicants, and may extend that to abutters. For NOIs and RDAs, the applicants will present first, usually followed by discussion with the commission and staff. Once commissioners' questions have slowed, abutters will have a chance to speak, followed by other members of the public as time allows. The chair may set time limits if needed. Please keep your microphones muted unless it is your turn to speak, and let the chair know if you plan to record the meeting. Most importantly, please be respectful of others so we can keep the meeting productive and focused. Now I'm going to take attendance and then we'll start. Janet Benjamin?
Here.
Joanne Cossett?
Here.
Greg Douglas is not here tonight. Mike Rivers?
Here.
Cinnamon Swallow? Chuck Wagner?
Here.
And Karen Strauss, I am here. First up tonight is our usual public comment period. This is an opportunity for members of the public who wish to briefly address the Conservation Commission on matters not on tonight's agenda. So if you wish to be heard, if you could please make yourself known. Okay. And seeing nobody, we will move on to our first item. Continuation of Certificate of Compliance filed by John and Jane Malloy, SE 19-1579, for the demolition of an existing addition and construction of a larger addition, hardscaping at an outdoor kitchen, foundation plantings, removing beach grass and bearberry, and planting non-native plants and driveway improvements at property located at 25 Bayview Drive, map 13, parcel 049. And this has been continued a number of times. Jason, I see you're here. Would you like to speak on this?
Yep, I'd just like to continue it again. I think we can have it by the August 25th meeting. If we could do that, we're just still coming up with a mitigation plan to deal with the additional work that was done there. So,
okay. Just want to make it clear that we've had to chase you down month after month after month on this. So can we make it sure that this is the last continuance and you'll have the material for us? Because I think otherwise we're prepared to deny the certificate of compliance.
Okay.
Okay. So what date were you, did you say?
August 25th meeting?
August 25th. Okay.
Yep.
If we could have a motion to continue to August 25th.
Move to continue to August 25th.
And is there a second?
Second.
Chuck?
Yes. Second.
Joanne?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And I am a yes.
Thank you.
All righty. Next up, we have an administrative review filed by James Wright. Applicant proposes to remove 5 scrub pine trees at property located at 290 Somerset Road, map 14, parcel 136. And I'm going to ask if they would like to speak a little on the project just before I have the commission get into it.
The resident is at the meeting. I don't know if he was prepared to speak on it.
He does not have to.
Okay.
And
All right. Well, basically, I'll give you a quick rundown. I'm his son-in-law. There are 5 trees in the.
before you go on, if you could just identify yourself for the record, please.
Sure, Kevin McLean. Basically, there's 5 trees that we're looking to remove, and 4 of them are clustered down closer to the water. But when we looked at them, we saw that there's splits in a couple of them. There's 4 that are have I think it's wind damage from a couple of storms ago. So two are bad, and if those fall, they're going to knock the other 2 over. So we asked to be able to remove those. And then there's a tree in the front of the house, which is on the easement on the town line. 2 limbs are hanging over the front of the house, and we're asking for permission to have those removed too. The insurance company had asked that the overhanging limbs be removed, so we're asking for that too. Additionally, today we had a tree company come in for just to give us a quote for the 5 trees that were on the application today, and they found 2 more that were there was a big hole in one of them to the left of the house, and then there's another one that's being encased in vines. So they recommended that those 2 be taken down too. So we didn't know how to go about adding those 2 to the application, or how we could get permission to remove those 2 as well.
That's going to have to be a separate filing.
Okay, fine. We'll sure we'll do that. We'll do another submission with the pictures and the whole thing, and then so we'd have 2. If both things get approved, we'd have 2 different permissions to give to the tree company, the tree removal company to
right. You'd have 2 separate permits.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay. And
Branches.
yeah, so we were out there for a site visit this morning. I'm going to ask the Cinnamon if she will give us her view of what the site conditions are, and then start us off with any questions and comments.
Absolutely, thank you. There are indeed 4 trees in the backyard of the property. They are grouped kind of tight together. In the middle of the yard, they're very tall, very spindly. There's a little bit of growth on the top of all 4 of them. One is split, not very healthy trees. They're not contributing a lot to the landscape or to the habitat for that matter. So I have no problem with removal of those. It was an insurance request as well. Also, the limbs in the front of the house on the pine, I don't see a problem. It's a very healthy tree, not going to lose a lot. They are over the roof. And again, it was an insurance request. I talked to Mr. Wright. He was willing to do mitigation. Alex and I suggested blueberry bushes. It's perfect for those. So that is my 2 cents on that.
Okay, can I ask if there was a quantity of blueberry bushes discussed?
We didn't discuss, but I think there's not a lot of area in the back. I think 2 to 1 would be kind of heavy. I would almost say 1 to 1, like 4 blueberry bushes in that area. And they don't, as I understood it, Alex mentioned this, they don't have to be in that exact same area, so they can kind of go along the sides as well. But again, not a lot of room back there. So I think 2 to 1 might be a little heavy.
Okay, I'm going to ask if the homeowner or the son-in-law would like to respond to that, and then I'll see if anybody else on the commission has any comments.
That sounds fair to me.
Okay, anybody else on the commission have anything they wish to say on this? Okay, if we could have a motion to...
Wait.
Oh, wait. Janet, did you want to say something?
Well, yes.
Now I see now there's a hand. Okay.
I didn't walk down like some of the other people, so I'm wondering if the trees were marked. Because I
They
don't
are.
know that they're marked on the site plan. And also, are any of them appropriate for leaving as a snag?
I anticipated your question, and so I didn't think they were appropriate for snags. They're kind of close to the house. I think it would be any animals would be hard pressed to really pick those, seeing as that there's so many other things in the area, and it's wooded on both sides. And then these are just 4 trees right in the center of the yard. I don't think it was appropriate. Um, so, and they were. I thought I looked and I thought I saw marks on something on some piece of paper along the line. So they were, and they were marked on site too.
Does Alex have any comments?
Yeah, I think Cinnamon covered that well. They were marked on site, and I agree that these aren't the best candidates for snag habitat. Yeah, so I think just a flush cut, keeping the roots, intact would be the best approach.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. If we could have a motion to approve the removal of the 5 scrub pine trees with it was 5 trees, right?
Yes, 5.
Okay,
Trees
5.
and one.
Well, yeah. Sorry,
One-
4 plus the limbs.
4 plus the limb. Okay, so the removal of 4 pine trees plus the limb with mitigation of 4 blueberry bushes and special conditions for tree pruning and removal.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second,
Janet,
yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, and we are done. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
And next up, we have an administrative review filed by Robert and Kathleen Sherwood. Applicant proposes to remove 4 storm damaged trees and remove 1 tree limb at property located at 150 Meeting House Road, map 12, parcel 293. And I'm going to ask if the applicants are here or anybody associated with the filing wishes to speak on.
Oh, this is Robert Sherwood, one of the applicants. Assuming you did the site visit today and you could see the trees that were marked, I wait for your conclusion.
Okay. And again, I'm going to ask Cinnamon if she might like to review the site visits and start off any questions.
Absolutely. We did see 1 leaning dead pine that was marked. I didn't see any problems with that. There was 1 white oak, the one over your dock. So big limb hanging over. I didn't see a problem with that. It's a healthy tree. And the limb is, I'd say, a safety issue to the dock as well. There's also another dead pine where the crown has fallen. So the crown needs to be removed. That's dead. The pine needs to come out as well. And then there's another dead pine that can come out. And I would recommend either of these 2 pines as a snag. And then there's also 1 pine, it's a lollipop, just some spindly growth up top. I see no problem with that going. It's a heavily wooded area. We also observed understory trees popping up in the area. So I don't think the removal of these 4 trees would hurt it. And like I said, there's things that are starting to grow up already in the area. So overall, I think it was a yes on these.
Robert, would you be acceptable to you to have a snag from one of the trees? Do you know what
Oh,
that
yes.
is?
My wife and I are big birders and we appreciate the value of snags.
Mhm.
Not a problem.
So either one, your choice of those?
I
I don't think you have
I'm
to
not sure,
decide.
I know where the three of them are, and I can't, of the two she's mentioned, I'm not sure which is which, but either one's fine.
Yeah, I think that would be our view as well. So usually we have snags at 12 to 16 feet up.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay. Any comments from anybody else on the commission? No? Okay. So if we might have a motion to approve with one of the pine trees left as a snag at 12 to 16 feet. And with the mitigation just to be the pine trees or the trees that are already coming up as understory. And special conditions for tree pruning and removal.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the notice of intent filed by the town of Eastham. Applicant proposes to retreat Herring Pond with alum to improve water quality for humans and wildlife located at Herring Pond. And I'm just going to jump in here instead of the applicant and go first on this one. But I just want to see Mickey Marcus, I assume, is at Town Hall.
Yes.
Okay. So looking at this application, it became clear that the WPA Form 3 is incomplete and missing, has some procedural problems, as well as missing the required Appendix A, which is required for ecological restoration limited projects. It also has the wrong title for Hillary, and a number of boxes are not checked out, including some resource areas such as inland bank and buffer zone. Check boxes are not checked, and so on. So it's an incomplete filing, and that needs to be corrected before we can discuss it. Because at this point we can't even discuss whether it's a ecological restoration project, as you haven't submitted the required documentation for that.
So if we may just open the project, I think I can address those concerns, but this is not being filed as an ecological restoration project.
It's being filed as an ecological restoration limited project.
It is
Yes.
not.
Yes.
It is being filed as a limited project, but an ecological restoration limited project requires, it's usually filed for large projects that have rare species, need natural heritage endangered species program approval. We're not going that route for this project. It's just a limited project for improvement of fisheries habitat.
But you checked off in section, find that in the filing here, that you have checked that off as a limited project.
It is a limited project, but not an ecological restoration limited project. Those are very large projects that exceed all the thresholds for the wetland resource areas. So pond projects usually don't go that route unless there's a rare species that's involved.
But then you do point to 310 CMR 10.534,
Correct.
which is an ecological restoration limited project.
It is one of the things that I failed to do in the notice of intent is show how under 310 CMR 1055-4, that's what limited projects, how this work is approvable as a limited project. And normally for pond restoration projects, It's for improvement of fisheries. And I did mention that in the NOI, but not explicitly.
Well, the NOI itself is deficient in information as well, significantly.
So what we'd like to do is open the hearing, get all of your comments. We will happily go back to the drawing board and provide the commission whatever deficiencies you think we need to provide for the next hearing date.
I have pages and pages, because you don't even actually describe what an alum treatment is to start off with, and then it kind of goes downhill from there. As well as you assume that mentioning GEIR absolves you of having to explain what that is and what the requirements are for that, because you don't even get into that in the filing.
That's correct.
And you rely on data from 2012 and protocols from 2012 and haven't repeated phosphorus tests and FEP tests and so on and so forth. After the original alum treatments were done, there were no repeated tests after that. So it's missing a significant amount of information that we would need to actually discuss this project.
Understood. So what we would like to do with your permission, Madam Chair, is open the hearing, introduce ourselves, go through what the proposal is, and then take any comments you want to provide today with the commission members or in writing, and we will provide you any additional information to make the submission as complete as you would like.
I think even just if you went back and reviewed the earlier filings from 2012 for this pond and for Great Pond, you would realize how deficient your filing is and provide additional information. So I was not going to be wanting to give you the time to present, and it's so deficient that the commission doesn't really have a lot to discuss in your project, but I guess I'll give you time to present after all. And then we can go into, I have several pages of missing information here, and I think I would imagine the rest of the commission has some as well.
Okay.
But I don't think you did the work you needed to do to actually have submitted application at this.
Okay, well, thank you, Madam Commissioner. I appreciate
And
the time.
I certainly, if I wanted to, could make a motion to deny the project for lack of information. So
That's always the commission's prerogative. This is a town project. You can deny the project if you choose to do so.
but it's a very deficient project that doesn't even explain in the filing what an alum treatment is and why it's necessary for this pond. It doesn't explain GEIR. It's using the older GEIR instead of the newer Mass APM guide. But go ahead, I'll let you present after all.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just wanted to briefly introduce myself. I'm Ellen Ridge. I live at 150 Crosby Village Road in Eastham. And Mickey and I started this project about a year ago. We met with Hillary Lemos Greenberg, who's the Director of Health and Environment, to talk about concerns that we were seeing in Herring Pond with regards to excess algae. And at the time, we all felt that this was a project that was worth pursuing. So what I took on was pursuing Community Preservation Act funding. Historically, all of the pond mitigation in Eastham has been funded with CPAC funds, but there is a pretty significant process to get access to those funds. So that process began in August with notifying abutters. 15 letters of support for repeat alum treatment were submitted as part of the CPAC process. And ultimately, after many months, it was on the warrant for town meeting, and a repeat alum treatment for Herring Pond was approved by a vote of 315 to 37. And the budget of $193,000 in funds have been made available to the Department of Health and Environment for the repeat alum treatment of Herring Pond. So just wanted to give you that background on on that part of the process. And I'll let Mickey take it from here.
Yeah, so the town has allocated funds for alum and lake management treatments. It also includes funding for a creation of a brochure for all the residents around all the ponds in Eastham for how to improve their manage their properties for fertilizer runoff, dog waste. So the part of this grant is also to do some educational work.
Okay, but maybe you could just get into the notice of intent as to grant doesn't
Sure.
actually.
Sure. Introduction. My name is Mickey Marcus, 30 Jenny Clark Road, Eastham. I'm a professional wetland scientist. One of the few certified aquatic pesticide applicators in the state, and I'm also an ecological restoration practitioner. I am retired. So I have been helping the town of Eastham pull together this notice of intent, no cost to the town, trying to save the town about $30,000 from their previous NOI submission. I did attempt to meet with the Conservation Commission in May as a pre-permitting meeting to go over the NOI submission. I had a draft at that time and was told just to file the NOI, which is why we're here. And I'm sorry you're finding deficiencies, but we tried to meet with the town commission to head off some of these concerns. We also asked if we could file both Herring Pond and Great Pond in one NOI, which is what Hillary requested. And we're told file them separately. So since we only have funding for Herring Pond, only Herring Pond was submitted. So in 2012, this commission approved a project to apply alum to Herring Pond. There was a year of data, and it was found to have very high nutrient levels, primarily in the soils of Herring Pond. And the town hired Ecologic, Liz Moran, and GHD to do the permitting work. And they had 1 year of data. They hired ACT Environmental Consultants to do the application that was done in 2012. We have 15 years of water quality data. You can interrupt me anytime. That's fine if you want to interrupt. But we have 15 years of data, and what normally in pond restoration projects, the commissions would normally issue a 5-year order of conditions, and it would typically be renewed every 5 years, extended. In this case, in 2012, the commission issued a 3-year order of conditions. They did the work, complied with the orders, did the final report, and that was closed. So we were trying to build on the NOI. I had the copies of the NOI and the orders of conditions that the commission issued in 2012 to basically use the same data, the same information. The commission asked for specific information about the application. The aquatic applicators provided that information. I included that in this NOI. I consulted with them in 2025 to ask if this information was still valid, and they concurred. So that was ACT that did the work in 2012. Since 2012, ACT has become Solitude Lake Management. I spoke to the guy who ran the application barge and his boss, and confirmed that dosage rates looked reasonable. But what they like to do, and what we are recommending, is wait for 2026 pond data to be in place and have the limnologist finalize the dosage rate. So the dosage rate that was used in 2012 was 75 grams per meter squared. That's the aluminum sulfate alum. And then you add the same quantity, that was 6,000 pounds, and then you add the same quantity of sodium aluminate, that's a buffer. So there's 2 tanks on this barge. They inject the solution in the water. It precipitates out the nutrients in the water, lands on the surface, the pond surface. I'm sorry, the pond substrate of the which is what's called flock. So this technique is called flocking. It's been used in Massachusetts for, I don't know, 30, 40 years at this point. You asked about the environmental impact report. So the only permit that the state has issued a generic environmental impact report for lake and pond management. The pond is not owned by the town of Eastham. Any pond 10 acres or larger is owned by the Commonwealth. So this pond is owned by the state. The requirement is that an order of conditions locally needs to be obtained before any kind of lake management work. As long as you follow the state-issued generic environmental impact report, which went through MEPA, the project's approved, or should be approved. And the towns that have denied projects always get overturned by the DEP because there's a blanket state permit. Also, there's the state's issued practical guides to lake management, and what the chair has referred to is there's a 2020 management guide, which I didn't reference because it was draft, the guide for aquatic lake and plant management. This is really for conservation commissions that have suggested order of conditions, but that 2020 plant guide actually just got finalized a couple of weeks ago. So in that there are suggested order of conditions for the types of lake management techniques. And what we're proposing in this NOI, and I'll try to wrap this up quickly, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but to conduct another alum application, depending on when orders of conditions are issued, either in fall 2026 after the swim season, or in the spring of 2027 prior to the swim season. Using the 2026 data, the applicator would be a town hired consultant. I'm assuming they'll go out to bid. There's only like 2 companies in the state that do this work. They would do the work 2 to 3 days on the pond. Every year before any work is done in a pond using alum or algicides, herbicides, they need to apply to the state DEP what's called a license to apply. And the license to apply has the specific treatment doses, the specific herbicides if they're going to be used, copper agents if it's going to be an algicide. So every year that changes. And every year the Commonwealth comes up with a new list of acceptable products to use in aquatic resources. So I did not, other than the alum, I did not include any other algicides, herbicides, because that would be done every year, assessed separately. That's information provided to the commission in the license to apply, and that the applicators would then have the ability to apply that. Currently, maybe you know, there's a current town of Eastham hires folks to do lake and pond monitoring, water quality monitoring. I think there's also the Cape Cod Commission.
So Herring Pond and Great Pond are monitored. Basically, it's through the Cape Cod Commission and. Oops.
Can you move closer to the microphone, please?
Yes, apologies. So Herring Pond and Great Pond are monitored with the support of the Association to Preserve Cape Cod. They monitor the ponds in the Outer Cape, and that data is fed in through the Cape Cod Commission, and consolidated into a database that is accessible to town employees as well as the public. And that's the source. The goal of the Cape Cod Commission was to do a very significant investment in a platform that would save towns money so that they didn't have to go and have this testing done independently in order to be able to manage our kettle ponds. That's where the data comes from. It's not done by private companies anymore, and it's organized through the Cape Cod Commission.
So the only other thing I'll say is that we did include a proposed work plan, and that work plan is the plan that was approved by this commission previously, and the one that was put together by the aquatic applicators. And that has the specifics on the application rate. The other thing I know you're aware is Herring Pond, as well as other resources in that area, are part of an area of critical environmental concern. In 2012, there was a query made as to the status of treatments in Herring Pond, and was told that MEPA is not required because any project that does lake and pond management has to conform with the generic environment impact report, and no additional permitting is required. So the ACEC and the outstanding resource areas have been addressed by the Commonwealth. The staging area is the existing parking lot. So I think Madam Chair mentioned that I didn't include buffer zones because there's no disturbance. Basically, the trucks, the people, the boats go to the existing parking area. They use an existing town-approved boat ramp. So there's no
there's no boat. I'm sorry, I'm not going to interrupt until you're done.
Okay, that's fine. But there's a fisherman's landing. So in the last NOI, Michelle Ford wrote it. I know Michelle because she worked for me for 10 years. But they included the bank alteration, because you have up to 50 linear feet of bank alteration before you need a wildlife habitat assessment. Her assessment in 2012, and I would concur, is that basically launching a boat about 12 feet wide. But because it's an approved launch area and people launch boats there, I didn't check off bank alteration because it's basically a town approved boat launch area. So if you want that changed, I will do so. But because the staging and work area is an existing sand parking lot, the town occasionally grades it because it gets full of potholes. I didn't include buffer zone. There's no wetland resource area alteration. There's no BVW alteration. Land underwater is sometimes considered a resource area with alum treatments, which is why I included it as a limited project. But usually it's not it's not an issue. I did, Hillary really didn't want to have the hearing tonight. I just wanted to get this started on your records, but she suggested that I include a USGS site locus map, which I have, and I'll give to Alex, or I can email, as well as an aerial photo of the beach, which I can also give to Alex or email. And then I do have the original certificates of mailing. We sent it to 81 abutters. We got one back in the mail. And we got a DEP file number, 1948, with no comments. And that's typical for pond management projects because they just want you to take care of their ponds. And then I will say the other thing is that this project, part of the reason the town funded the alum treatments is that because it complied with the Eastham Community Preservation Plan from 2024. That was to protect and restore the freshwater ponds in the town. I'm going to stop there. I know you have a lot of questions. I know you have a lot of criticism. That's fine. Just you can either give it to us now or in writing, and we will attempt to provide comments back to you and the commission.
Okay, so the fact that the CPA and the town meeting approved the funding for this project does not have an impact at all on the permitting of the project.
Understood.
I did read the CPA filing and I have thoughts on that, but that is not relevant. Neither is how you got the funding or the fact that it came from the Herring Pond Association and not really from the town. So the NOA WPA Form 3 is incomplete and has a bunch of incorrect information in it, which needs to be corrected. I am confused by what you've written in the section on limited projects, because let's see, because you do refer to 10.53 here and 10.534, and then once you get into the and that is just whether this is going to be treated as a limited project and a limited eco restoration project, which is 10.534. And then once you get into the notice of intent itself, you don't actually discuss that. You don't discuss GIR in any detail at all. So you're asking us to take your word for it that it applies, and it applies in the way that you're not telling us in detail how it applies. So that makes it very hard for us to consider it at all. You don't really describe the project. Let me go back. The beach is actually an inland bank. It's not a boat launch. It's a beach. It's an inland bank. It's next to a herring run. The pond has 2 periods of the year where the herring run is in use for herring coming in to spawn and then juvenile herring leaving. And the pH levels of the way the alum treatment affects pH levels certainly can affect the herring in the pond. And reading through 10.534 and all of the very many other references it points to within 310 CMR, I would have expected you to file with Mass Wildlife or DMF to get a time of year and to get comments and see if they have any time of year restrictions on the work, which you did not do. And then just moving into the application, you don't really describe for us, or you don't at all describe what an alum treatment is, how it works in any detail. Speak of, so how do you expect the commission to understand the project and evaluate it? You're relying on 2012 data. You have a chart here showing the herring pond P and FEP data from 2012, but I don't see any testing that was done after the initial alum treatments or recently to see if any of that has changed. You don't discuss whether any conditions that affect the phosphorus loading have changed or increased. You refer in your cover letter to a limnologist having reviewed the data and approved the project. You don't name the limnologist. You don't provide any reports from the limnologist. And I can go on. If you look at the 2012 filing for Herring Pond and the 2014 filing for Great Pond, you can see that they provided a lot more detail explaining the nature of these kinds of projects, which helps the commission at that time understand what the ask was and the science behind it. And there was a lot more data provided than you provide. So I get a little stuck here with this project, and the more I looked at it, the less I liked the NOI filing. You're asking for a 5-year period to manage vegetation with herbicides, which you don't name, which you don't really discuss the application process in detail. You haven't done a vegetation survey for us to highlight where any of these invasives are located. Generally, restoration projects that use herbicides are meant to be short-term projects with limited use of herbicides, but you really don't provide us with any details on that. You're looking to, in the beach, to remove some fencing or so on to bring your boat in. I believe the previous filing, they didn't do that. They moved everything by hand through there. There's no discussion of the alum treatment and its effect on pH levels and how you're going to monitor and mitigate that. But it sounds like you're intending that information all to come much later when an applicant person is hired to do the work, instead of presenting it to us now so we can evaluate it as part of the permitting. So let's start with there. I'm going to let Mike jump in now, and I'll come back to more later, perhaps.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I want to thank you both for engaging in this project. There's absolutely no question that this is very important. We want our lakes in Eastham to be healthy. I'm very interested as well in an evaluation of Great Pond. Great Pond certainly is even more important to Eastham for a number of reasons. So if you feel that there are challenges there, we'd love to hear about it, even if there isn't funding, because we'd like to know what the problem is and possibly can help expedite some of these projects. That said, I know nothing about alum, and I just did a quick Gemini search and found that there are 6 different ways of decreasing phosphorus in freshwater lakes. So what I would be very interested in seeing is not only an explanation of why you chose alum, the risks, benefits, but also the alternatives to treatments for a lake that has this type of problem. You've defined the problem. You've already gone on to solve it. I'd like to know why you chose this type of process so that I can understand more about what some of the risks of alum versus risks of other treatments costs, if that is important to you, and it sounds like it is because you've already got funding. It's also very important to me that you address the fact that the herring are in that pond and that there's a herring run right next to your staging operation. I'd like to understand how you're going to protect that area and protect the herring. Thank you.
Anybody else on the commission want to jump in here? Okay. Do you want to?
Janet just.
Oh, she did. Janet, I don't see her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It really helps if the hands are. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
I think a project that was done in 2012, and there's a lot of detail in it, might be a guide for the project that is being proposed, but we need some updating. That was 14 years ago. And as Mike stated, there are different ways of treating, and I'm not familiar with them. I feel that I need a lot more information than what is being presented. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to ask Mickey if you want to address anything that's been said so far.
I'm not going to address all the comments. I just want to thank you and the commission members for those comments. I assume we'll get something in writing that we can respond to. But what I did want to say was, and I do apologize, I guess my assumption was that all the commission members would have a better understanding of alum, but I'm wrong. So I will go back and I will explain pond management, pond treatment using alum and the other measures. But the problem here, if I can just say, so Herring Pond's like 44 acres, has a 80-acre watershed, very small watershed, no inlets, one outlet, the Herring Run. And what's happened over time, and I'm talking about a long time, nutrients, primarily nitrogen, phosphorus, have accumulated in the soils. So the soils build up this nutrient bank, and when you get warm weather, it promotes algal growth, and that's why we end up with high levels of algal blooms, filamentous algae, that's all the nasty stuff on the shoreline, as well as the green color. So the alum, and I'll explain this in writing and explain everything, but the alum is basically a chemical that you put on the surface. It precipitates down and it binds the soil and the phosphorus, so it creates, it inactivates the phosphorus, so it's not available in the water column. And unlike 2012, that had 1 year of data, we've now had 15 years of water quality data, and we see that phosphorus level has, since 2014, has steadily increased. The phosphorus on the bottom has steadily increased since 2014. That the chlorophyll levels, the algae, has steadily increased since 2014. The water quality clarity is very poor. So this is a problem for swimming. And the dissolved oxygen, which is what fish use, is extremely low. So the alum treatment, and I'll explain all the other treatments that are available, including there's a no treatment, as you just let it be as it is. That's a no treatment option. The idea is to improve fisheries, but it will also improve the human use, which isn't an interest in the act, so we didn't include it. I will say though that one of the things that I included in this NOI, which is a little different, is to be able to treat the pond for algae or invasive plants as needed. And this is basically to, if you get a cyanobacteria bloom, which we haven't had in Herring Pond, it gives the town the ability to do an assessment, figure out what the problem is, come up with a treatment, get a license to apply from the state, and treat. It basically allows you to manage the problem. If you didn't have that approval in the order of conditions, you couldn't turn that around.
We could under an emergency certification.
You could do that. And part of the alum treatment, they could only treat in water 5 feet or deeper. That's what they did in 2012. They didn't do any of the shorelines. They didn't do any of the beaches. So
I think maybe I'm just going to interrupt and suggest that instead of going through all this now, that you take the time, put it all in writing for the commission in detail so that the commission has time to review it and thoroughly. And you just went through talking about data that you didn't actually put in this filing. You said that the phosphorus on the bottom has increased, and you mentioned a bunch of other stuff, but that's not included in this filing.
It is. Appendix 1 has all the data from the last data was from 2025, and so I included that in the NOI. So you'll see the data from 2014 to 2025, which is what I was just talking about. And when I spoke to Solitude Lake Management, they only had the data at the time that we spoke to 2024. So I'm very reluctant to confirm the dosage rates without getting 2026 data. So that's what we need
Okay.
to get.
So who produced these charts? And you have a chart here on Appendix 1 in very, very tiny print. Where did that come from?
So all of this data, as I mentioned earlier, comes from a database that was created by the Cape Cod Commission and is specifically made available so that towns on the Cape have access on an ongoing basis to information about their ponds that they can use to make decisions for pond management.
So you need to include that with the charts that you're putting in the sourcing, which you haven't done here.
In Appendix 1, it says the following graphs were sourced from the publicly available Cape Cod Water Quality Data Portal provided by the Cape Cod Commission. Water quality data has been provided by the Buzzards Bay Coalition, the Center for Coastal Studies, the Town of Barnstable County, the Wacoit Bay National Estuary Research Preserve, Mashpee Wampanoag Nation, National Park Service, and in our case, the Association to Preserve Cape Cod. The portal development, which is where this data can be accessed, was funded by Barnstable County and a Southeast New England Program Watershed Grant awarded to the Cape Cod Commission and its partner agencies. So that's the source of all the following data. And then the nice thing is that when you actually go in, and I'm sorry that that's why it's so small, but this is exactly how it prints out, is it actually gives you, if you see in small print at the top left, it says trend, and it tells you whether or not this data shows a statistical trend.
It was not showing any data last week when I went and looked, but in any case, the chart on page, I don't know, no page number. The chart with the sediment, phosphorus, and chemical forms doesn't have a source listed for that.
All the data was from the same database.
Okay, that chart was not from that. That chart was from a report from Liz Moran in 2022.
I'm sorry. Oh, the Appendix 1, yes. So the point that I was, that I felt it was important to make, and this point is specific because alum, the only reason you would use alum for pond mitigation is to treat extremely high levels of phosphate. So I was simply trying to point out that the conditions that led to the original alum treatment back in 2012 are now equivalent to the levels that we have in the pond today. That's so that's where I got that.
Okay, that's not clear, but it also would be helpful if you include information on how the testing was done.
Okay.
And the earlier filings from 2012 also had specific places marked and where the alum would be applied, and we're getting no details like that in this either. Well, anyway, and as to a written evaluation of what's missing, I think what you get is you come, we talk, and you hear what we're saying, and then you come back and we talk some more. The commission doesn't meet outside of the meeting to produce reports or additional evaluation, because that would be a open meeting law issue.
Okay.
Any more questions from anybody on the commission? I'm gonna ask if there's anybody who isn't a butter who wishes to speak, and I'm gonna give 2 minutes per person, just because it seems like there's a lot of people on this call, and they want to make themselves known. There'll be other opportunities to address this in future filings. Well, I don't see anybody. Okay. How long do you think it will take you to clean up the Form 3 and provide the additional information that's been asked?
Well, to avoid having to notify all the abutters again, appreciate if this hearing could be continued to your August 25th hearing date.
Okay. Do you think that's manageable? I will ask the commission for a motion to do that. Chuck?
One comment before we move with the motion.
Okay, could you speak a little louder?
Yeah, just one quick comment. Please include a brief explanation of why you're using a mix of sodium aluminate and alum. I think nobody really understands pH management, and they need to understand that in order to know why you chose the mix that you've chosen. And I'll make the motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Cinnamon?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And me? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Next, we have notice of intent filed by Paul Anderson, trustee. Applicant proposes to install a swimming pool at property located at 275 Saltworks Road, map 04, parcel 007. Is someone here to speak on this? Is Shoreline Pool here to speak on this, or property owner?
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Alex. My name is Chris Lutazzi. I'm with Strong Tree Engineering, and I'm here representing the Andersons at 275 Saltworks Road.
Okay, if you'd like to present your project for us.
Great, thank you. The Andersons own and lived their year-round residence for many years. It sits to the east of Saltworks Road at the end across from the water. They're proposed to looking at adding a saltwater pool onto their property. The concerns here are the coastal dune and land subject to coastal storm flowage. We've looked at flood and erosion control. Not too concerned with that, with the soil being hook sand. There's little concern regarding water penetration, storm damage, water pollution. Is going to be minimal, if any, since they're using saltwater pool, which runs at, as you know, 2,500 parts per million versus 35,000, which would be actual saltwater. Stormwater isn't a concern. The fisheries and wildlife habitat, the focus for these folks is literally evolved around the ecological impact of where the placement of the pool is. And I wanted to just address that a little bit. My past is I've sat on a commission, and I commend you for having an open comment period, by the way. I haven't run into that at any of the other commissions I've spoken in front of. It's very brave, but I think it should be commended to let folks just speak generally to the commission. One of the things in looking at it, putting on my conservation hat, is a couple things. Why is the pool in the location where it is? Are there other places it could be? Did it address Chapter 155 and the location being between the 50 and 100-foot buffer? So I thought I would address some of the concerns that I would have in looking at this and kind of explain where we came up with the footprint and the access way and how it addresses the Eastham bylaws. Is that acceptable?
Yes, of course.
So in accordance with we'll talk about the pool. So The pool is kind of dictated by several different pieces. One, why wouldn't it be closer to the house? Why would it go northward? And that's because that's where the leach field is. And there's a setback requirement. So it is a little bit more than the setback required at 21 feet. East and west, it's almost perfectly centered, which is why it puts it between the 50 and the 100 foot buffer. The reason for that was to minimize ecological impact. And because what they're trying to do, the owners currently have a crushed stone driveway, so they're focused on maintaining what they currently have at all possible. They wanted to avoid some of the larger woodies in pitch pine. There's some small red cedars. There's also obviously some bayberry there and 2 lonely pin oaks. The path that they took and the placement that they took was twofold. One, so they could specifically keep some of the larger woodies that they had. And the second was to ensure that they had sight lines from the house to the pool. It's as a safety aspect for little ones being in the pool. So in looking at it, if they went further east, they would be removing some of the vegetation that they're looking to keep. I'm sure that the folks went out for a site visit. I believe you go the day of or day before. You'll see that it's pretty nutrient poor. So of course you're going to find your pitch pine and your bayberry there as low cover. There are some places where there are less trees, but that's where the leach field is. So if you look at that distance, the idea of the actual construction of it, they're using all pervious materials. They're ensuring that there's the smallest footpath when it comes to the walkway to the pool. The construction access, it's a little bit wider because what our plan was is to actually draw how to avoid when it comes to getting permission after, if we're fortunate to get our order of conditions, literally to avoid removing as much foliage as possible. Looking at the actual area, knowing that you have a 2-to-1 for area having to do with what's covered or impervious area between the 50 and 100, I have to apologize. I realized that the file that was sent didn't include the area that had been selected, and that's the 2-to-1 mitigation area. And I did have one question for you. I apologize. I just started last week. That's my excuse. But I wasn't sure in that 2-to-1 if it needed to be in the 50 to 100 or if it could be in the 0 to 50 buffer, if you will, which is really 35 to 50 buffer because of the road. So they have ample area to do the 2-to-1 mitigation. And my calculations show it's about 2,800 square feet. That would be the double amount. And all to the west of the house and the walkway is all area that could be. So currently it's depicted, and I apologize for this image not being in front of you, but you can see my pen is kind of circling what's immediately west of the proposed pathway and pool. And if it needs to be within the 50 to 100, then we'll just stretch it, if you will, make it skinnier and stay in that 50 to 100, as opposed to right now it's in the 35 to 50 area, if that makes any sense. I went out and counted the trees of what would be impacted, how many are on the property, how many would be removed. Right now for the access way, it looks like there's 5 healthy pitch pine that would be impacted, 3 you know, it's funny, Cinnamon said on one of the other items, she looked at the top of the tree, and I'm like, oh, did I look at the top of the tree? So now I'm second guessing myself. Cinnamon's too thorough. I shouldn't say that out loud, but it looked like 3 were deceased for my expert opinion of it's brown, not green. But it looks like it had been dead for several seasons. In the pool area, there's 7 trees with 2 that would be, I would determine as deceased as well. Obviously, there is some value, as you've been saying, for birds and snags. And that pretty much goes to the questions that if I was a commissioner, I would have asked. But I'm happy to answer any questions about vegetation, replacement, location, or any other questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. So we were out there for a site visit this morning. Before I do that, we will need to see all of that stuff you just described for us in a plan we can actually look at and review. So your filing did not include the tree counts and didn't discuss mitigation beyond saying the applicant understands that mitigation may be required, including preservation of a continuous undisturbed vegetative strip where necessary. And I don't see in the filing itself any real discussion of the pool regulations and those requirements. So we were out there this morning. We saw that the pool area itself was marked, but we didn't see a lot of staking otherwise for buffer zones for the edge of the pool patio area. The access route wasn't staked. So we had a lot of questions about that. The trees were not flagged for us to review. And there was no area of the pool regulations require a 2-to-1 no disturb zone for the pool and 2-to-1 mitigation for everything else, which would include the patio pavers, the pavers around the pool and so on. So that wasn't addressed in the filing at all, wasn't addressed on the site plan. So we had those questions.
May I ask the question about the mitigation 2-to-1, understood, but the location of the do not disturb, is it anywhere on the property? I mean, obviously we could put it into parts. I think there's more value to having one larger area. The way that I had put it on the plan was that it was to the west of the area. Do I need to focus on the 50 to 100, or is it anywhere on the property? I didn't understand reviewing the chapter 155 on what the requirement was for that.
Well, it should be anywhere within the jurisdiction.
Okay, so anything under 100 feet then. Okay, I just didn't know if the way that the way that the reg is, it's talking about the 50 to 100, so I didn't know if the replacement needed to be maintained in that 50 to 100. So thanks for that clarification.
So, but put it on the plans, and then we can discuss the specific siting and any concerns we might have about it. Because it is challenging to discuss it without seeing where you're suggesting to put it.
Would you be able to approve with the conditions that the plan is received as updated?
I think there's too much missing here to think that we could approve it tonight.
Okay, and you're looking for the trees within the pool area to be marked individually? Is that what I understood?
Yeah, yes. So usually we expect that a site to be marked, that buffer zones will be marked, that the area of work like the pool and the pool surround would be marked, that the access area path would be staked so we can look at it and evaluate it on site.
Understood.
And then it would be really nice to have the tree counts and so on in writing And then there are other pool regulations that you did not discuss at all, that it would be nice if you would discuss in some detail in writing for us so we can talk it over with you.
Would that be specific, such as, again, apologies, I'm catching up on this. There was lighting mentioned, so what the lighting will be or how it's going to be adhering to the bylaws, that kind of information?
Yeah, so the pool regs
Okay.
are pretty specific,
Yep,
and we just need you to address that.
understood.
And yeah, and I think that's kind of it for me. I'm going to ask if anybody else. Mike?
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned earlier that one of the reasons you placed the pool in this specific location is because of the septic. And I'm looking at the documents, and all I see is septic system approximate, but I can't tell where the field is.
Okay,
So I'd like for the future to have that be very well documented. The other thing is that if the temporary access way goes over the septic field, that
It
may
does.
be a problem.
understood.
Okay.
Great,
We
thank
don't,
you.
we don't. Thank you.
No, it's going to be an extension of the driveway and basically in between it's the leach field is south of the house, but I'll make sure that it's marked appropriately on site as well as on the map.
And I guess the
Plans.
question is, are you planning on heavy equipment going across the leach field?
No.
Okay.
And there's a
Thank you.
21-foot distance between the end of the field and, well, hypothetically, end of the field and where the pavers would go.
Janet?
Yes, I have a question. I'm concerned about the length of the pool, the 40 feet.
Mm-hmm. There, if I understand, in the town bylaws, there was no stipulation on a maximum length of pool. The owner is a very health conscious person. So doing laps is requiring a longer pool, but it's still within allowable pool dimensions.
Well, I'm concerned about it. I do know that we don't have a stipulation on size, but I'm especially concerned because we have been in a significant drought for 2 years
Mm-hmm.
and extreme drought at times during that.
Understood. I think that's a concern for the homeowner as well. That's why rather than having a fence around the pool, they opted for the cover to reduce evaporation. And we can certainly put in some stipulations about water if the Conservation Commission feels like that's a requirement.
The regulations themselves do address water and how you're filling the pool,
Understood.
where the water is coming from. It addresses topping the pool when there's a level 2 drought,
Exactly.
and so on and so forth. So you haven't given us the information about how you plan on filling the pool
Mhm.
or any of that kind of information yet for us to discuss. So just to follow up from what Janet said. Alex,
Understood.
you had your hand up?
I was just going to mention the same thing you said, that our regulations do address drought conditions. So as long as those performance standards are being upheld, we should minimize that impact.
Would it be appropriate in this submission to write our intentions to follow and then list out, I know it says it either can be from the town water supply or trucked in, and just really blow through those and just write what our intentions are for each? Okay, thank you.
I think that would work very well. Any other questions from the commission? Joanne?
Thank you. Since I wasn't able to look at the site itself with the no disturb zone and the pool going in, just wanted to ask for those who may have seen the property, when we're talking about mitigation, what the commission would feel is appropriate here. I'm trying to look at satellite imagery and it's not totally clear, and I'm also not clear based on kind of the landscape there, what if anything additional in terms of information or recommendations we would want to see for mitigation. Thanks.
Thank you.
That is actually a good question, because the area where the pool is going is a very undisturbed and nice example of the kind of plant and so on that you would expect for that kind of dune location. And I have to say, I didn't actually look in the area outside of where the pool and the access was on the other side. I don't know if anybody else on the commission did that. Mike?
Yeah, the property is nicely covered with a lot of ground cover. There aren't a lot of tall trees. There's no canopy trees in this area. The whole property is very low, but there's a lot of, what was it, bearberry that was down on the ground. So to your point, Joanne, it would be removing a lot of ground cover in the area where the pool and the areas are going. There aren't a lot of mature trees in the area that would be removed, and so consideration could be given to larger trees or canopy trees in other parts of the property that could be beneficial to the ecosystem.
So I'll just say, I think it'd be great to kind of maybe see a little more detail on that and what the applicant might like to propose, and then we can discuss it at our next follow-up.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to ask if there are any abutters at this meeting who wish to be heard. Okay. And see nobody, I'm going to come back to the applicant and ask how long do you think it would go? Alex?
I just had a quick question. On the plan, you've got the location for the proposed pool equipment pad off the rear of the house. Will that require, is that equipment going to be connected to the pool in any way? Is there going to be trenching in between that pad and the pool itself?
That should be marked on the on the plan. Thank you.
Yeah, if there's any trenching involved.
Yeah, and that also points out that there's actually no limit of work on this plan. And we would need to see a limit of work around it.
I think if I wanted to confirm is the SS line, is that like a silt sock?
It is.
Okay, I wanted to confirm that. So the limit of work, the limit of work's on the plan. It's just labeled as a silt sock instead of the LOW.
I admit I found some of this plan a little hard to read. There's a lot of stuff here, and it took me a minute with the 50-foot buffer zone from the delineated dune, and then the 100-foot buffer from the graphic flood zone. Oh, that does remind me. I wanted to ask about that. Are those the same? The 50-foot buffer from the field delineated dune and the 100-foot buffer from the graphic flood zone, the same line? Did you have an arrow pointing? Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow. Is the 50-foot the same as the?
You've got on the lower part of the plan under the pool area. You've got something that says 50-foot buffer from field delineated dune, and you have an arrow pointing at something that says BZ50 embedded in the line. And then you've got above that a 100-foot buffer zone from graphic flood zone. Is that the same line?
No, it appears they're two different lines. But that
was a little confusing there.
When you said it was difficult to read, would you mind giving me some suggestions so I can go back and give clear instructions to folks on how it could be easier?
Well, if
you don't mind.
well, the arrow pointing at the 50 BZ line and then just seeing that the 100-foot buffer zone from graphic flood zone line seem to apply to the same line. But then if you look more closely, it also has a little arrow pointing at a line that runs through the middle of the pool. And, oh, actually, that was the question we didn't ask. And then you have the 50-foot buffer zone from the field delineated dune with a very small pale little arrow pointing at a line. So it took a while to kind of associate those with.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have the flood zone. Okay, so 100-foot. So let me ask you before we go on, for the graphic flood zone, you took the FEMA maps and then just basically applied that here. You didn't do a actual any kind of field survey or anything to determine where the flood zones are. You just kind of applied
It was,
from existing.
yeah, the FEMA maps were utilized. There was a gentleman on site, but he wasn't, he didn't delineate wetland vegetation or to confirm those. I mean, I think it's a little convoluted, only that you're talking about a coastal dune, and on the backside of the dune, there's a two-way road. So,
Yeah.
obviously in our minds, it continues, but we're talking it's 35 or 35 feet from the edge of a road, which is really, if you ask me, kind of a cross section of the backside of a coastal dune as it is.
Okay.
Well, I really appreciate this. This is my first commission hearing, so I said I'm going to be one and done. Now I'm going to have to hold my head, blame everybody that came before me, and say I'm 0-1. But I do
Okay, so
appreciate all your feedback. I think that was really helpful.
Okay, so we do have to vote on the continuance.
Understood.
And just make sure you understand everything that we've discussed. So, yeah, so our next meeting would be our first meeting in August, which would be on the August 11th.
Okay.
Is that enough time for you to pull this together?
It certainly is. And when do I need to provide that information for your review?
Alex?
Yeah, that would be the week prior.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Tuesday prior to that Conservation Commission meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so if we could have a motion to continue this to August 11th.
Motion to continue to August, what was the date?
We had a motion, we need a second.
Oh,
Second.
Okay, thank you. Janet?
yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And next up, we have a continuation of notice of intent filed by Richard and Nicole Petrika. Applicant proposes to remove cesspools, install a new septic system, reconstruct the walkways and patios, construction of a pool and pool house, connect to town water and associated site work, and landscaping a property located at 20 Bridge Road, map 20, parcel 014.
Good evening, Rick Grady from Grady Consulting.
Welcome.
My connection's a little sketchy, so I apologize, and please let me know if you can't hear me clearly. We met with the commission 2 weeks ago, reviewed the majority of the project. At that time, the commission had asked us for more information on the flood zone across the street at the intersection of Bridge Road and Dyer Prince Road. We sent our survey crew back to the site. We obtained an accurate location of where elevation 13, which is the flood zone, falls on the ground there. We added the 50-foot flood zone setback and the 100-foot flood zone setback to the plan as requested. We did find that the septic system, as originally proposed, did encroach onto that setback. So we revised the leaching area and rotated it so that it maintains a little over 100-foot setback to the flood zone across the street. The size of the system didn't change, just the rotation of the system changed. We added additional labels to the flood zone setbacks that originate from on the locust property, as discussed at the last meeting and requested by the commission. We had some discussion regarding the proposed hedge. Excuse me, we reviewed the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension approved native plant list and revised the arborvitaes that we had shown to specify eastern red cedar for approved equal. Our reason for the approved equal is that we're not 100% certain of the plant availability. So if we're unable to obtain the eastern red cedar, we need to explore.
You've dropped out. We can't hear you.
Or a different plant that would be on the approval. I'm sorry.
You're
How
really
about now?
You're breaking up pretty
Oh.
severely.
I hate to say it, but can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to try dialing in.
Mhm.
Sorry about that. How about now?
That sounds better. Mm.
Okay. Very good. So yes, so we approved plant list. There's approximately 70 trees proposed. And we're removing 2 trees, so we're well exceeding the planting requirement for the new trees. There was some discussion of the performance standards portions of the wetland regulations to sheet 4 of the plan. So it addresses a lot of the items such as filling of the pool, that no diatomaceous earth is allowed, and we will fully comply with those performance standards as outlined in the regulations and depicted on sheet 4. So I believe at this time, and I just want to reiterate too, that we're actually reducing impervious coverage with the reconstruction of the patios. So there will be a reduction in the impervious. We're removing a lot of driveway. And I'd be glad to answer any questions the commission may have. I believe we addressed all of the comments from the previous hearing.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mike if he wants to jump in and get us started.
Sure, absolutely. Rick, thank you very much. We found your new diagrams to be very comprehensive. We went to the site again today, and the new areas, especially in the front of the property toward Dyer Prince, were marked out very clearly. And we did notice that you shifted the angle of the leach field and appreciated that when we were on site. So thank you all very much for all those. We did have a few questions. The first is that we had asked about legacy trees and wondered if you had followed up. That's not directly under the purview of the Conservation Commission, but you're taking out a couple of very large old trees, and we wanted to understand if you'd followed up on that.
We researched the regulations. I understand that it's a special permit to the planning board. We have not filed that for those 2 trees yet. Our intention is to return to the site to actually do a DBH measurement of the diameter of the tree, just to make sure that we accurately survey that. When we locate those trees, we tend to look at them honestly and say that looks like a 24-inch tree or that looks like a 12-inch tree. So we do need to return to the site one more time, get the actual DBH measurement of those trees and submit to those to the planning board if they are indeed greater than 24 inches, which we're anticipating.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that. I can tell you there is a concern.
I'd be glad to have a condition to that effect as well.
Okay. As far as the trees are concerned, we do appreciate that you've changed to cypress trees, and there are a number of cypress trees, but they're not canopy trees. And so one of the concerns that we have is that you're removing 2 large canopy trees and replacing them with a hedge, which is obviously beneficial to your client. But we would be interested in hearing if you had an interest in replacing canopy trees, which you are removing.
We would be willing to accept that as a condition of approval.
Okay, thank you. The last thing that I have is that we do appreciate that you went through and looked at the regulations for a pool. We don't have a concern where the pool is located. You've done your due diligence, and we know that you've been working on this for the last several months. But the commission would appreciate more detail about how you plan on meeting the regulations. So we see that the regulations are on your sheet 4. I'm looking at sheet 4 right now. But some of the details of how you plan on meeting those regulations have not been, at least right now, I don't see on the plan. Basically, the performance standards, as you put on sheet 4, are just cut and paste of the regulations, but the specifics of how you're going to address those regulations, I couldn't find in your plan. And I wonder if you could discuss some of those details.
Yeah, we did contact the landscape construction company, and sorry, had a paper blow away here on me. They're not going to be using a commission's earth filter. So we're aware of that, and they will not be using one. We are aware that a dry well will be required. We learned that, and we learned that FABAP would be glad to have that as a condition of approval. We're not currently showing the dry well on the pool now, but we're glad to have that as a condition of approval. As far as filling the pool, it's my understanding that they'll be using a private water supply company for that. Let's see, they won't be filled from private well water.
I'm sorry, you're still breaking up, and I can get some of the answers, but it's difficult to get all the answers. Madam Chairman, would you like to?
Yeah, we've been losing you again. I think we lost you at.
Sorry, I'm not even moving here, and it's breaking up on me.
I think we last heard you were trucking water in. And maybe if you could start from there.
Right, so be trucking water in, washing the filter. So glad to have that as a condition of approval. Just going through the list here myself too. Any pool-related chemicals would be stored inside the pool house, which is well feet for you. The pool, and they will be covered in the off season. A lot of the other ones there I see regard location, so I did not make any comment on those.
And pool lighting?
Let's see. I'm not sure if Nicole's on the call, if they're planning on any pool lighting. Okay, so yeah, anything that will be used will be shielded to direct light downward and away from resource areas, trees and vegetation in order to reduce the light pollution and adverse impact to wildlife. So yes, any lighting that they need will be downward and away from the resource areas.
I think it would be helpful to us if you could kind of put that in writing for us, and that could be something that could be submitted if we're going to approve tonight, something that could be submitted afterwards to the conservation office, just to fill in the details, as well as perhaps the location of the dry well, or that is something that could alternately be discussed with and approved by the conservation agent at the time the work is being done. Nicole, you're welcome to speak.
I think you're on mute there, Nicole.
It did look like she was trying to figure out how to unmute. I could send you a request to unmute, and then maybe you can just click on that. Did you get a unmute request? There you go.
Yes, I'm really sorry. I don't know. To the bottom of my phone must be broken. I didn't even think of lighting, to be honest. I was just waiting to get past this step. So we will do whatever you recommend. I also just wanted to say, in regards to the hedge and planting any trees, if there's obviously plenty of space there. So if we need to plant additional canopy trees, we're happy to. I also, was then debating American holly for the hedge, and I don't know if that's a preferred hedge. So if that is, then we can switch that too.
I think our concern over the hedge was that it's helpful to have something that creates habitat rather than, right. So what specifically that is under the native species list is not quite as important as that. So yeah. And then I did have a question about the hedge. Is this, when somebody says hedge to me, I visualize a certain thing, that a hedge, that somebody's pruning it. And I have to say that I remember along that road many times where people were out with their trimmers doing their privet hedges there. So I was wondering how you plan to maintain this as a hedge.
Originally, for the arborvitaes that we originally proposed, we would it would be trimmed very neatly and squared off. So honestly, didn't get my hopes up on how to trim anything or how you wanted it done until we did what you wanted.
The thing is that if you're going to be, that we want to include in the permitting the ability for you to maintain your hedge and prune it and so forth.
Yeah, we want to have everything kind of more trimmed up neatly and grow for privacy sake also tall.
Okay, I'm not fundamentally opposed to that, especially if you're mitigating the canopy trees.
Okay.
Which I think would need to be at least 2 to 1.
Okay.
Given the size, I would prefer more than that if you were willing. So we do need to kind of quantify what the mitigation work would be for the trees coming down, and then for the hedge trimming, we can certainly include that as a condition and written in such a way that it could be an ongoing condition when you come back for a certificate of compliance. So we kind of have to write that the right way now so that we can give you permission to keep doing that later. I don't know that anybody else has anything to say about it being maintained as a actual hedge, given that you are willing to mitigate otherwise.
Okay.
So what were you thinking for the mitigation for the canopy trees? 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, given that they're such big trees?
I had in my head the 2 to 1 just based on the fact that we would be adding other plantings, but is there does it have to be in a certain area of the lot? Because we have where the septic and the pool are going, ironically, is very congested, where the opposite side of the yard where we're not allowed to do anything is more bare. Is that okay to put it there?
We usually like mitigation within our jurisdictional area. So, and given that, there's a lot of latitude.
Okay. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be there's other areas then. Yes. Okay.
I think the area that Nicole's referring to is in the flood zone within the commission's jurisdictional area. So we can certainly come up with some location there.
Okay, that sounds good. I think that's something that can be discussed also with the agent later in the project in terms of placement and so on. But we just need to get the quantities down for the permitting. So that was the
Nicole, you
question.
want to just say 3-1, or do you want to say 2-1? What do you think?
Is there a certain size that when we plant the trees, what maturity level do they have to be?
Well, we're certainly not asking you to bring back in giant legacy trees. And I admit there was a discussion this morning. Oh, what if we asked them to dig up the tree and relocate it? And that went away pretty quickly because those trees do not relocate well, and trying to do that would be somewhat absurd. But I'm going to ask Alex to weigh in on the mitigation a bit, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm the number of trees coming out. We had the 2 trees adjacent to the pool. Those are marked on the plan as being removed. But then we also noticed a tree to the north within the layout of the proposed driveway. And it looked like, since that's in the layout of the driveway, it would need to be removed as well. So I wanted to confirm that there would be 3 canopy trees being removed for this project, and that'll help us decide on the amount of mitigation.
Oh, the small one in the turnaround area in front of the cottage?
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yes, I missed marking that, but that looks like that is within the driveway turnaround, so that should be removed as well. So it is 3.
Cinnamon, go ahead.
I just have a question, kind of more for you, Karen. They can plant all the way out to that FEMA flood zone X line on the plan. Is that within our jurisdiction, or?
Well, I'd have to look at the site plan, but anything that's within a jurisdictional marked area, so that would be the even including the 100-foot buffer zone to the flood zone. Does that answer you?
The 100-foot buffer zone is considered our jurisdictional, and okay, I got you.
And this is not an area of frequent flooding. They actually have, most of the yard is maintained, so I would think this would be a good case to even put some of them within the FEMA flood zone.
That would be totally appropriate.
Okay.
Looking at modeling and projections, the flooding will be likely to increase in that area over time. So probably from the Dyer Prince Road location before it increases in the back side of the house. Just to note. Yeah. So anything else from the commission? I'm going to ask if there's any abutters who wish to be heard. Okay, and seeing none, I'm just going to recap here that you are going to detail for us how you're going to comply with the pool regulations that we just discussed. We're going to allow you to have the hedge to maintain as a hedge going forward. You're going to do mitigation. Did we determine that? We didn't determine a number for that.
Correct.
Yes, 2-1.
We did 2-1. Okay.
So that would be 6
2
trees
to
for
1.
3.
So that would be 6 trees. You had asked about size of trees, and I was hoping Alex would weigh in a little bit on that.
Yeah, I think for similar projects, a 2-inch caliper sapling, I think would be appropriate.
We were going to add a condition that the possible legacy trees be reviewed and permitted prior to being removed, and that we
also talked about showing a dry well.
Oh, right, showing the dry well for the pool.
Yep.
Okay. Did I miss anything else? Okay, then I think Unless anybody has any further concerns. Let me grab my notes here for a second. Okay, so, right. So unless anybody has any other concerns, if we could have a motion with the information just discussed, as well as the special consideration for pools, and a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Okay, Cinnamon,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Joanne? Joanne?
Yes.
And did I get Janet already?
Yes.
Okay. And I am a yes. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a good night.
Enjoy it all.
Thank you.
All righty. And let's see. Then next up, we have continuation of notice of intent filed by Daniel and Margaret Milsky. Applicant proposes to remove existing deck and gazebo, construct additions to the north and south sides of dwelling, construct a farmer's porch, a new deck and patio, replace existing septic system, remove beach access stairs, and construct new beach access stairs and connect them to existing path, remove existing planting beds and plant native trees, remove existing lawn and mitigation at property located at 30 Cedar Lane, map 21, parcel 058. And Stephanie, it's all yours.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. I'm Stephanie Sequin with Broderick Wilcox, representing Dan and Meg Milsky, who are the owners of the home at 30 Cedar Lane. They are here online with us tonight. Also, we have Peter Haig with AD Architects. Yeah, there's Peter. And Michael Tanis with the Blue Flax Design. Before we start, and I know this it's getting late, but Dan wanted to just take a minute and give a little background with this property. It's been in his family for quite some time, so he just wanted to give you a little background very briefly on the history and who they are and what their plans are. So I will turn it over to Dan.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming out today. I recently inherited the property. I'm from this house. So this is the house I was raised in, went to Eastham Elementary and Nauset Middle and high school. And I spent 30 years as an environmental ethics professor, specializing in philosophy of restoration ecology and theoretical ecology. So I just wanted to let the committee know that, you know, this house is absolutely part of my identity. Eastham is part of my identity. We're very committed to doing everything in our power to reduce our ecological footprint, to do as much mitigation as we can. We're looking forward to putting in a nitrogen fixing system. We're moving our garden, which we've put thousands of hours of effort into, out of the 100-foot range. And so I just, you know, I think it's important as a philosopher and an ethicist that you understand the intentions of the people that are before you. And I just want to assure you that ours is to continue the legacy of this home, leave it to our children, and that we're very committed to doing everything we can to improve the health, ecosystem health and function of the land here. So that's all I really wanted to say. I know it's not really germane to your considerations, but you know, I think it's important when thinking about these things, thinking about the people and their commitment to a common cause. So thanks.
Okay, thanks, Dan. So this is a 1 acre piece of property. It abuts the salt marsh on Town Cove. We also have land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's an A zone, elevation 12. We traced the 12-foot contour along the southerly portion of the property. The grade is relatively flat. It's at the flood zone. It's between 4:1 and 10:1. So in that section, the 12-foot contour is the top of the coastal bank. As you move across the middle of the lot and toward the north, the slope becomes steeper than 4:1. So in that area, the top of the bank was determined by the points where there is a break to less than 4:1. So we're showing the top of the coastal bank and the 50 and 100-foot buffers to the bank. There is currently an existing 2-story dwelling with a walkout basement. According to assessor's records, it was built in 1977. It has an attached garage, a first floor deck with a gazebo sitting on the deck, the walkout basement being below the deck at the lower level. Hardscaping includes a pervious driveway, stone walkways, and retaining walls. There are, as Dan mentioned, some raised planting beds that are located within a fenced-in mulched area. There is the ground surrounding the building is a Cape Cod lawn with a pretty well-defined edge of clearing that has been maintained. And there is a set of elevated timber stairs that provides access down the coastal bank to a path that leads out to the water. The Title V system was upgraded in 2000 and consists of a 1,000-gallon septic tank and a leaching system with an approved capacity for the existing 4-bedroom dwelling. What's being proposed here are several additions, renovations to the existing building. The existing deck and gazebo are to be removed and replaced with a new deck with a pervious patio next to it. The main addition is on the north side of the building. There's also a smaller addition on the south side of the building, a proposed farmer's porch on the west side or the road side. Let's see, we provided the proposed building elevations that were prepared by AD Architect to so that you can see from the elevation view what is being proposed, as well as the proposed footprint on our site plan. Because this is an environmentally sensitive lot under the Orleans Board of Health regulations, this work triggers the requirement to retrofit the existing system with an IA component approved for nitrogen reduction. So we're proposing to remove the existing 1,000-gallon septic tank and replace it with a 1,500-gallon microfast tank that does provide nitrogen reduction that will be installed in the same location as the existing tank and will be connected to the existing leaching system. The existing stairs on the coastal bank are in terrible condition. They actually had someone fell through, so they are need to be replaced. So those are proposed to be removed. A new stairway is proposed a little bit, probably about 10 or 12 feet further to the south, where the slope of the bank is a little bit not quite as steep. The existing planting beds and chain link fence are proposed to be removed, and that will allow that area to be planted with native trees that are shown on the Blue Flax planting restoration plan. Blue Flax has prepared a mitigation, an invasive land management plan and planting restoration plan. Just very briefly, they're proposing to remove invasives from an area of 8,954 square feet, remove the invasives, manage them, and restore the area with native vegetation. In addition to that, 1,258 square feet of existing lawn area will be planted with native plants to expand the naturalized buffer over what exists. I provided a construction protocols along with the construction notes that are on the plan, where I've shown a limit of work associated with the house construction renovation. specified that a fabric silt fence will be installed along the limit of work and will remain throughout construction. A dumpster will be placed in the existing driveway. All demolition material will be placed either into the dumpster or directly into trucks for removal from the site. During excavation for the new foundation, all excavated material will either be placed directly into trucks for removal or stockpiled outside of the 100-foot buffer, and any excess will be removed upon completion of final grading. The existing septic tank will be pump dry and removed, and a new microfast tank will be installed in the same location. And roof runoff will be contained through either gutters and downspouts connected to dry wells or crushed stone at the roof drip line. AD Architects provided additional protocol, I think an extremely detailed description of how the work will take place, what kind of equipment they're going to be using, the sequence of events throughout the construction project. I will let Peter go into more detail about that. We've specified the proposed patio will be constructed of permeable material, and Blue Flax has provided a detail of that construction for the patio to ensure that it will remain permeable. The proposed, as far as the elevated stairs, the existing stairway will be removed as carefully as possible by hand, with the material placed obviously in the dumpster. The proposed stairway got some pretty typical details for that, along with the profile. It's 44 inches wide to the outside of the handrails. It will be constructed on posts elevated above grade. The limit of work will extend to no more than 3 feet beyond the proposed structure. Excavation for the posts will be performed by hand. There will be no risers on the stairs, and decking on the landings will be placed with 1-inch spaces, all this to allow sunlight to penetrate through to the ground below, allowing vegetation to grow and stabilizing the bank. Upon completion of construction and removal of the existing stairs, that area will be revegetated with native ground cover. I think that is all I have. I can hand it over to, I guess probably, I'm not sure, Peter or Michael can go over, Michael can go over the proposed invasive management and mitigation. Maybe that would be the next item, unless you have any questions for me now.
I think maybe have him go over the vegetation and invasive species, and then we'll get into the question.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good. I am Michael Tanis from Blue Flax Design. I'll start with describing the existing conditions, which Stephanie mostly covered, but the vegetation, the salt marsh along Town Cove is densely vegetated with low marsh grasses. It transitions to invasive Phragmites australis, where native high marsh grass should be. And then this mixes with native high tide bush in the area between the rack line and the toe of the coastal bank, which is very stable, where it begins to transition into more of a native maritime forest. So the bottom of the coastal bank is well vegetated with native canopy trees of oak, cedar, pitch pine, and black cherry and serviceberry in the understory. There's native shrubs, including bayberry, arrowwood viburnum, and highbush blueberry in the understory, but in kind of lower densities. There, to the south of the property, there's sapling-sized invasive sycamore maples and black locust. Further up the slope, it kind of transitions to more invasive plants where they're found in higher densities, concentrated along the wooden stairs where disturbance from probably the stair construction, but also the heavy pruning historic pruning, has allowed the invasive plants to establish. There's autumn olive, shrub honeysuckle, and the trees there are in poor health. They're short and multi-stemmed with dense upper canopies, no interior canopy. Virtually all of the previously pruned trees are suffering from fungal disease or are in various stages of declining health. Invasive bittersweet vines have established here and grown around the trunks, girdling the trees and contributing to their declining health. In addition, there's very little understory or ground cover growth underneath this kind of degraded vegetated area. Above the coastal bank, the 50-foot buffer is mostly structure or Cape Cod lawn, except to the north of the house where there is a native oak and pine canopied forest. It's well canopied, but there's virtually no understory here, and the ground cover is dominated by invasive English ivy, garlic mustard, and common periwinkle, vinca. There's a small footpath. So our main goals for this mitigation plan are to ensure the coastal bank remains stable and functions as a vertical buffer to floodwater, and to improve the wildlife habitat function and value on the coastal bank and in the buffer zone. We will accomplish this by removing and managing invasive vegetation to reduce their competition with native species, and to densely replant with native species that provide high value cover, forage, and breeding habitat. We also plan on expanding the vegetated buffer to the coastal bank and planting this extra densely with native grasses, wildflowers, and shrubs. So this will serve to increase the interception and infiltration of stormwater, which will better protect the coastal bank, as well as provide additional high value habitat. So we'll begin the project with the mechanical or hand removal of the invasive species. The stumps will not be removed. They'll be cut flush with the ground, treated with systemic herbicide, and left in ground. We're proposing 6 trees to be removed during construction: 1 native pitch pine, 4 native oaks, and 1 invasive sycamore maple. All vegetation debris will be removed and brought to an off-site disposal area. After removing these invasive shrubs and vines, pulling them out of native trees, the native vegetation will be assessed for health and may have to be flush cut or pruned to promote healthy regeneration and vigorous growth. Any previously cut trees along the stairs that are in really poor health will be cut and treated with systemic herbicide. Any bare ground will be seeded with a mix of native grasses and wildflowers. Woody vegetation will be planted after the invasive plant management phase is done. We're proposing 12 native trees and 210 native shrubs. These will be planted and allowed to naturalize. The heavily disturbed areas where the existing stairs will be removed will be raked smooth, seeded with our mix of native grasses and wildflowers, and as Stephanie said, erosion control blankets will be installed. We will also be plugging this area with native Pennsylvania sedge and marginal wood fern to establish a ground cover and also help to control any potential erosion. That Pennsylvania sedge and wood fern will also be plugged underneath the new stairs after construction for the same reason, to establish a native ground cover and address potential erosion issues. Temporary irrigation will be installed on the shrubs for 2 to 3 growing seasons. Once they're established, they'll be removed, and follow-up invasive species management will be ongoing over the next 3 growing seasons. The site will be monitored throughout the duration of the permit to ensure the health of the plantings and to prevent the establishment or return of invasive species. At this, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Peter Haig from Architectural Design. Is it okay if I jump in here?
Yes, I was just going to say that, but I turned out I was muted. But please jump in.
So my apologies. My camera doesn't seem to be working. I'm not sure why, but anyway, I didn't want to turn it off to restart. Anyway, here we are. So one of the things it was a very thorough presentation by Stephanie and Michael. I think I just would want to add 2 things. One is, in working with Dan and Meg Milsky, that they made it very clear they're very committed to this, to doing what we're doing and doing to the best of our ability, and doing it in an environmentally sensitive way. From a design point of view, we sought to reduce the amount of deck, pull it back a little bit, and we also had our point was to have any increased space that we're adding to be behind the line of what's existing. Overall, I think the last thing I would say is our goal is during construction is that we would endeavor as much as possible to prefabricate things outside the 100-foot and bring them in and assemble them on site rather than setting up shop on the bank and working right there. There will be some of that, of course, but the intention would be to minimize that. And finally, debris would be taken off as we described, and all work would be within the limit of work. So maybe I'll just leave it at that. So thank you all.
Thank you. I'm going to thank you for the level of detail and your presentation covered. And we were out there for a site visit this morning, and I'm going to ask Cinnamon and then Michael if they want to start us off by reviewing what they saw and any questions they had, and then we'll move on.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the great presentation. It clarified, I think, some things that we might have had questions about. I think overall on site, one of my biggest questions, and it was hard to see where the new stairs were going. There was a stake, like you had to go through the woods to see that. We were wondering, is there any tree removal required for those new stairs?
No, there would be no additional like large tree, other than sapling sized or things that had already been previously cut.
So I don't want to speak for the whole commission, but I think we would probably like to see that better staked out, more clear. So with the invasives, if I'm looking out at the cove, they're more like over to the right of the stairs. That's going to be replanted and lots of invasives taken out over on that side.
Yes, that's will be the majority of the invasives removed will be from that area, and then we're going to plant very densely in that area with native shrubs that'll grow to mature size. And yeah.
Will that open up the view too?
Not any more than it already is.
Okay. And then my last question, you mentioned the sycamore maple, and that's the big tree that's like right on the kind of right outside the front door.
I'm trying to. It's listed on the plan as an 8-inch maple off of the proposed. I'm trying to see there here. Off of the proposed deck to the north of it.
Okay. So it was one big tree that we were trying to we clarified with the homeowner that was being removed, and it was sizable. So I think I would just want to be really clear on that. And I might have had a little hesitation about removing that big tree.
Alex, you want to jump in to maybe clarify?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the Ryder and Wilcox site plan, and perhaps it's the 20-inch oak towards the front of the house that's being marked.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Madam Chair, could I add something here?
Go ahead, Peter.
Peter Haig again.
Yes.
Yeah, we too had some hesitation about that tree. It's a lovely tree. However, it is very close to the house and overhangs at this point. And it seemed to us that it was more of a safety issue, really, here particularly in this case. It could be saved, but we believe it would be safer to take it now at this point as part of the construction?
I think over time there'd be more damage to the root system, so it would over time be a potential hazard. So it's best to take it right now. And again, we are proposing to replace the 6 trees 2-to-1 with 12 native trees.
And Dan and Meg, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I planted that tree in 1978 or 9 for Arbor Day, and we do have to remove branches from that tree. They fall on the kitchen here. So when we showed up here, we had to have somebody come and remove a branch from the roof. So that's part of the reason we're a little bit worried about that tree, just for history.
Sure. So that's all I had. Overall, I felt like we needed a little more clarification on site, especially where it came with the stairs.
Mike, go ahead.
Thanks. I was on site today too, and I just want to thank Stephanie and Michael for your description today and the plans. I too was a little confused when I was on site because things weren't marked as clearly. The other challenge we had, obviously, is I would have loved to go down the stairs and look to see what the path and the edge of the marsh looked like, but I didn't want to die today, so we didn't go down to the bottom. Michael, I do have a specific question for you, though. You described what it looks like down there, and you described the edge of the bank and then the Phragmites and then in the marsh. There's no dock down there. There's nothing that we haven't discussed as far as anything additional to what you've got on these stairs there. Okay. And then the question I had is at the bottom, on the drawing, it's very clear. You've got the old stairs and you've got the new stairs, and they converge on a path. What's that path like? What's the flooring of the path?
So that path right now is mowed through invasive Phragmites, which
Okay.
we're not proposing to tackle in this project. But so the old path, which is currently mowed, we're proposing to replant with some shrubs, and then we're just going to cut a new path. Well, a new
stairway. The stairway you were talking about.
Well, the stairway, and then the bottom of the path will just be mowed through the existing Phragmites.
Okay. And then the other piece that I had, so there's another path way on the edge of the property that's marked on the diagram that I'm looking at. I walked up that path and it seems to be eroded. Pretty clearly when there's rainstorm, it runs right down that path. There also seems to be an electrical wire, a bare electrical wire in that path. Is there anything that's going to be addressed on that path? This is the one right at the edge of the. It would be on the north side of the property. Right.
So that path is community prop. That's the easement for the entire cul-de-sac. Okay. And my father gave the guy next door offered to maintain that path because my dad is elderly. So that path, you're exactly right. That's why I don't like walking down that path, but that's my only way down to the water right now. So I'm not exactly, nobody really owns that path. It's like an easement. Okay. So I'm not exactly sure how to maintain it or who should maintain it or anything like that.
On this diagram, it's part of your property. That's why I asked. And it doesn't say that it's an easement. So that's why my confusion. Yeah. Thanks for the explanation. Thank you. No other questions.
Thanks, Mike. Any other questions from the commission? Joanne?
Thank you. Really appreciate your overview and explanation of the project, but I did want to ask about your management of invasives in the coastal bank. You mentioned at least a bittersweet and a few other things. I suppose my concern is sometimes, even if it's invasive, a plant can provide stability in the bank. So if you could address that a little bit and how you intend to find that balance between bank stability and removing any invasives that might outcompete native species. Thank you.
Sure. So we're not proposing to uproot any of the vegetation that we're removing. It will be cut flush with the ground and treated with a systemic herbicide. So the soil and the bank stability should not be affected at all because we're not disturbing the soil. And then also in that area, there, because of the dense canopies of there's not really much of a ground cover. So we're proposing to seed it heavily with native grasses and wildflowers that are very deep rooted, and that should help to stabilize the bank. And then also we're replanting it very densely with native shrubs that will add to that kind of root mat. And so we believe that this will overall, over time, greatly increase the bank stability. Oh, that's.
Anything else, Joanne? I'm going to ask the obnoxious question, and just because I want to know, not that I have necessary concerns about it. So the path mowing through the Phragmites, that was previously permitted? Has that been permitted?
The path, there was never any mowing there. That's only a path as a result of walking on it over the last 50 years. There was never Phragmites there until about the last 3 years. So there was just no path at all. The only reason there's a path through there is for me pulling my kayak through there.
Okay, because we were just told it was.
Yeah, I know he said the word mowing, but really it's a remnant of walking on it. So I put that Phragmites right through the bottom of my foot on multiple occasions.
Okay, because that's what it looked like in the satellite images when I did the overview, and then I hear, oh, we've been mowing through the Phragmites.
Yeah, no mowing. I was just walking with my kayak.
And you know that's going to generate this question. I think you've really done a very good job with this plan. I have no questions or comments about anything except really the herbicides. It seems like quite a bit of herbicide use here. I'm wondering which particular herbicide you're using.
So in the land management plan, there's an Appendix B, which briefly goes over the herbicide that we use. And the two main herbicides, the active ingredients are glyphosate and triclopyr. Mm-hmm. Different invasive plants require different, one of those two. And we're not going to do any spray. So a lot of these, so we'll cut the stump or the shrub or the vine right at the ground surface, and there's usually a thick stump right there. So we just apply a concentrated herbicide treatment right to the cut stump, not on the soil, no spray, and we've seen great results with how that works.
Right, and we've seen that in many plans from Blue Flax over the years, and we have had at times discussions about whether herbicides needed for all of these different species of invasives, or whether some could be hand managed within the same time frame of your plan.
So to hand manage these, you'd have to create a lot of disturbance on the bank. You'd want to get out the roots and everything. So you'd be really creating a lot of disturbance, ripping up roots, and it's a trade-off. And we see great success after one initial treatment, and there's follow-up treatments, but it gets less over time. And within the duration of the permit, we generally are able to control roughly 100% of the invasives.
I'm not opposed to the invasive use when it's used carefully. I just like to get that question in there for the people who are watching who would like to have asked that question themselves, more or less. But I think that the plan is good. I was a little concerned at first that moving the stairs would really take out a lot of vegetation, but I think you have that covered throughout your vegetation management plan. So I am actually finding no concerns with the project worth mentioning otherwise. With that, I'm going to ask Janet to go ahead.
Thank you, Karen, for clarifying the treatment of the invasives, because I do have some concerns also. I wanted to thank you all for the presentation you made, and I want to thank Dan especially for giving us the historical account of your home. I wondered whether there were new owners, because here's this home and you're making some changes to it, but I hadn't read that the property had been sold. So it's I really appreciate that. And I'm glad we're keeping you in Eastham, and the history of your family will go on. Thank you.
And you can plant another tree.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else on the commission have any questions, comments? Okay, then I'm going to ask if there are any abutters who have any questions, concerns, who wish to be heard. Okay, and I don't see anybody, so it seems like as we're all questioned out and there's no additional information that is needed, that we can go ahead and permit this tonight. We haven't made any changes to the proposed plan, and so we can go ahead and just ask for a motion to approve the plan as submitted with special conditions for single family dwelling, and I think we need the special conditions for landscape. We have special conditions for landscape management. I forget what title we gave them, Alex.
Yeah, that's special conditions for single family dwellings with landscaping.
Oh. Okay.
And then I don't think we discussed any other additional conditions that we wanted to add to this order. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
I was just looking at the staff report, didn't have the landscaping part, and I was wondering, we just had another document there and it escaped my brain. So, okay, so if we could have a motion to permit the project as submitted with special conditions for a single family dwelling with landscaping.
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Mike?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Cinnamon? Cinnamon?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, and thank you.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
It was nice meeting you all today. Okay, next up, all right, we're moving on to staff updates.
Staff update, none tonight.
Okay, and then we're moving on to minutes. So we have two sets of minutes. I'll do them separately. We have June 23rd, 2026, and I'm just going to ask if there were any comments, notes, corrections that have not been given to Amy. Okay, and then if we could ask for a motion to approve the June 23rd, 2026 minutes.
Move to approve June 23rd, 2026. And
Okay,
can
and
I also July 14th, 2026?
Second.
I said we were going to do them separately. I haven't
right.
asked if anybody had any comments on them. So would you like to reframe maybe the motion?
Move to approve June 23rd, 2026 minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Janet?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Joanne? I am a yes. And now the July 14th, 2026 minutes from the regulation hearing. And I will ask you if anybody had any comments, concerns, questions about that they didn't mention to Amy. And now if we could have a motion.
Move to approve July 14th, 2026 regulation meeting minutes.
And a second, please.
Second.
Second.
Mike?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay. And next we'll move on to the 130 Goody Howard Drive violation. The homeowners were on the call or at town hall.
Yes.
Hello, homeowners here in town hall. I'm Joe Beals, the homeowner.
Okay. Hi. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. So maybe Alex could just recap what the situation is for us, and then we can discuss.
Yes, thank you. Our office got a call for potentially some unpermitted work happening on the property, so I did a site visit and met with the contractors and Mr. Beals, the property owner. All work has stopped for the time being. My understanding is the property owner is replacing his existing parking area, or I should say like a shell drive within, similar to perhaps slightly expanded footprint. It's within the buffer zone of a wetland that's across the street and the flood zone, which runs adjacent to the property. So I mean, Mr. Beals wants to make this right, has met with me and met with the commission this morning, and so tonight we're going to give him some guidance on how to proceed with permitting this work.
Right, and I understand that he sent you a PDF that maybe we have some pictures of the site before the work, before and after.
Yes.
And I know that some of us saw that at the site visit, but some of the commission was not present. And
bear with me here. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Exit out of that. Can the commission see this?
yes.
Okay. So this is a sketch that Mr. Beals provided us. We can see the buffer zones to the wetland across the street. We also have a wetland to the west of the property, and then the flood zone runs adjacent to, if not slightly onto the property. So most of the property is within the conservation's jurisdiction. And then we've got some pictures of what the shell drive looked like prior to the work starting. Going through here, this is very helpful. So thank you for sharing this with us. And then I believe the commission has seen. I think I took 2 pictures, so the commission has seen what the work looks like currently, and from comparing the before and after, it looks like the work is more or less within the same footprint of what was existing.
Right. It seemed like there was only a little expansion on the 2 fringes of the driveway as you enter from the road.
Yeah, if I could elaborate on that. In
Yes,
fact,
please.
yeah, so if anything, the driving and parking area will be reduced slightly, simply as we kind of refine the shape of the new drive within the perimeter boundaries of what already exists. And at the kind of mouth of the drive, where you can see, or where the committee members who visited this morning saw the kind of widened area, that in fact is to allow some native plantings on either side of what will be the drivable area. So in fact, the hard pack driving surface area will be reduced in that region.
All right, so I'm going to ask if anybody who wasn't at the site visit has any questions. Okay, so it seems like what we need to do now is decide what comes next, and usually this involves after the fact filing, where you would detail the work that you did, that the work that you want to continue to do for this project, and where we might look at perhaps the two areas where you want to put the native vegetation along the side of the driveway as mitigation for having done the work without a permit, because we usually like some balance in there, and as you plan to do it anyway, it seems like a bit of a wash. The question is what kind of permit we would want to do. You want to have you want to put down shells in the driveway. My understanding is, Alex, do you think we could do this with a AR, or do we need to go to a RDA given the resources?
I think given the scope of work and, that it seems a minimal amount of vegetation was removed, we can, if the commission's comfortable with it, pursue this with an after the fact administrative review.
So that would involve detailing the work you already did, detailing how you're narrowing the driveway, the plants you want to plant, the shelves you want to put down, and filing an after the fact RDA through the digital permitting system of the town, and then it would come back to us to approve. Alex?
I just want to confirm it was an AR, not an RDA.
Did I just say RDA?
Yeah.
I apologize. It's been a long day already. So an administrative review, let me just say it in full. So an administrative review, you check off the after the fact filing while you're doing the permitting. It would probably be helpful just for procedures to include the photos and the diagram that we saw tonight, and we could go from there. Janet?
Yes, and should they also include that they haven't cut down any of the mature trees, that the very mature cedars have been preserved in the driveway and at the edge of the driveway?
I think they should keep it to the work that was actually done and is intended to be completed. But I know you appreciate, and we all appreciate, those beautiful cedars.
Yes.
That we saw on site.
I think that all sounds very reasonable, and I appreciate the committee's perspective on this. And Janet, I appreciate your observations as well about those trees. I think we as the homeowners very much share that perspective.
Okay, let me just ask if anybody on the commission has anything else they want to say here. Okay, and I guess since you wanted the work to be moving forward, that you'll get this done in a reasonably fast turnaround.
Yes, I'll complete the application and the steps that you outlined, Karen, as soon as possible. I imagine I'll have that submitted within a day or two. And do I understand then that it would come up for your review in the meeting that you have in 2 weeks' time?
Yes.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody.
Okay, and then moving on, liaison reports. Anybody have a Janet? Anything from you? Cinnamon, anything on the Forest Committee?
Real quick, we met on the 15th. Alex did a great job on an annotated map of Sandy Meadow to submit to the state. We're planning, they did do a work day at the Great Pond Culvert, so the work was done, and we're scheduling a work day at, I believe it's Cottontail, the cutback invasives. And we are not participating in Windmill Weekend. We didn't feel we could man it for the 2 full days.
Oh, okay.
So that's all I have.
That's a little sad, though, that the Open
It
Space
is,
Committee.
but it was a good discussion around why and how, if we do it, we can do better things if we're going to do it. Like maybe an organized walk. Like, hey, we're having a walk Saturday night at 5 o'clock or Sunday morning. We feel like we could make better use of that instead of just standing there. Try to, and if we had the maps that we could hand out, here's our open space, please go walk them. We felt like that would be a big plus too, but we don't have those. So we're going to get in a better position for next year because I feel like they're not going to take away that 2-day requirement. So we're going to get in a better place with that.
Yeah, 2 days is a lot. 1 day was a lot.
Yeah, 2 days is a lot. And maybe we're even talking about teaming up with some other, organizations so we can man it better. But it just seemed, like I said, it wasn't the best use of our time, and nobody wanted to be stressed out.
Yeah, maybe you can share with another committee. You each take a day.
Yeah.
Or something
So,
in
like
the
I
future.
said, I like the idea of the guided walk. Like tomorrow morning at 9, we're walking Sandy Meadow, and so we'll see.
Yeah.
Working
I always thought the Open Space Committee should do some of those. So yeah, okay. Strategic Planning Committee isn't meeting until September, so I really have nothing to report there. Education and training updates. I know you all got email from MACC today with some training updates, so I hope you look those over. Mostly that's field training off Cape somewhere that none of us are going to go to, and then some lunch and learns for siting of small energy projects, which I don't think any of us are going to go to. I will mention though that probably coming up fairly soon or a little bit later in August that we'll probably get a notice about MACC fundamentals classes, because they always do a big run of those around the fall conference. So I hope you'll look to that and try to find some time to maybe add.
Is it traditionally in summer they don't offer a lot of the fundamental classes?
They've lately been grouping them around the annual and the fall conference, though I do know there's been discussion about trying to do them more throughout the year, because people at the moment aren't able to finish the fundamentals credentials in a reasonable time. So I know that's been a point of discussion.
There was one this summer that I couldn't take. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah.
There was one the same night we had our meeting.
That's what it was. Exactly what it was. So I have been watching it. So, and I did look forward on the calendar, and I didn't see any of those being offered.
Yeah, but there should be opportunities coming up, and they'll send out a whole bunch of them. So I hope you'll find some time for that. Okay. Other discussion: the recommendation to accept donation of land at 0 Old Orchard Road, map 05, parcel 76. And this is a location we previously did a site visit to. We've gotten some information, a small amount of, maybe, Alex, would you mind?
Yeah. So this was a parcel that the commission visited. That was sometime back in either late winter or early spring. This is the parcel that is behind the Tea Time property and adjacent to the Cape Cod Rail Trail. It's, I think, completely upland, mainly an oak canopy with huckleberry and maybe some low bush blueberry understory. You know, mainly all native vegetation. There didn't seem to be hardly any, you know, invasives on the property. And so, as far as long-term management, you know, that seems to be minimal. So it seemed to be quality habitat. That being said, you know, we do have a requested motion from Shana Brogan, our assistant town manager, on accepting this land donation. As she mentioned, we're still waiting on some drafted conditions from the property owner. We haven't received that yet. So if the commission would like to wait to see that before you know, making a motion, or if there's other materials that you would like to see, I could certainly pass that along. As Shana wrote, it is intended that this property would be used for conservation and passive recreation only, and that's the condition that we're expecting to receive from the property owner.
And Shana also notes that they'd like to have a trail on it, and it to be named Bob's Woods.
Yes.
So I don't know that there's an established trail on it at the moment, so that might be work that would need to be looked into. Or I wasn't able to get out on the site visit, so I don't know if you.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to recall from what the property looked like on our initial site visit. I don't think there is an established trail on this property currently, and so if the town were to take that on, then that would be you know, something we would have to do in the future.
Yeah, something for the open space and maybe the CPA.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if they do a trail on a property they haven't purchased, but I would like to wait until we see the conditions.
Okay.
I don't know how anybody else feels. If you want to just unmute and weigh in.
Yeah, I agree. Just for protocol purposes, it's good to know what we're signing up for.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure too that it is actually being accepted under the care and control of the Conservation Commission as a code 9320.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of the other donated open space things are still in the assessor's database as vacant select board, even though they were specifically donated for conservation. So and we've had that issue a few times. So I want to make sure that that's part of the process here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question was also before us whether we would want this to have a conservation restriction applied. I think that depends on what the deed, how the deed is written and what the deed restrictions are.
Yeah.
So we'd have to see that.
Yep.
So I think that's what we're going to see basically before the next meeting.
Correct. So this will be, I anticipate, getting answers to these questions, and then also sharing with the commission, those drafted conditions. So we can add this to our agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah, I do think though it'll be a nice addition for the neighborhood to have that public space that they can use and people using the bike trail, because everything else in there is either developed or it's private property. So even though it's not a huge space, I think it's a nice pocket space for people to use. So it was very nice of the property owner to think of donating it for conservation. So we will, I think, have to write them a nice letter once this is done. Okay, and moving on, 76 Old State Highway. Okay. Hello. So Mark Burgess was going to speak tonight.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah, there's two of us here.
Actually. Oh, okay.
Madam Chair,
I'm sorry. I saw the property owners on put their video on, so I didn't see you guys over there.
We're here live.
Okay, live is good. So yeah, maybe you want to explain what you would like to discuss tonight.
So if I may, Madam Chair, my name is Brian Wall. I'm an attorney. I have an office in Sandwich, and together with Mark Burgess of Shorefront Consulting, we represent the property owner Robert Seltzer, the owner of 76 Old State Highway. And we thank the Commission for putting this matter on the agenda tonight because we'd like to talk about potentially resolving a matter that's pending. And what I mean by that is the following. The Commission might recall Mr. Burgess appeared before the Commission rather recently with a proposal on behalf of Mr. Seltzer to relocate and reconstruct an existing dock. And the Commission did approve the project. However, Mr. Seltzer has some concerns with some of the design aspects and some of the special conditions that were attached. And in this particular case, the approval that was issued beyond the 21-day requirement. And when that happens, the applicant is entitled to appeal the decision to the DEP for what's called a superseding order of conditions. And in addition, under case law in Massachusetts, the Commission actually loses jurisdiction under its bylaw and no longer has a say or a control over the project. And Mr. Seltzer did appeal, and that appeal is pending. And we did have a site visit, which I'm going to let Mark talk about in a minute. And the reason why we're here before the Commission tonight is to suggest that this matter can be resolved in a cooperative and mutually beneficial way, and we'd like to talk to the Commission about that. And having said that, I'll turn it over to Mark to talk about the details. Okay. Yes, for the record, Mark Burgess of Shorefront Consulting. Yes, we went through the entire permitting process. We received an order of conditions, and I will say from the very beginning, it was our intent to apply for an amendment to that order to seek two really important changes. One of the changes was regards to the height, and without going into much discussion, I know that the Commission has already approved revised regs that would allow this dock to be lowered. So I don't think that probably needs any discussion. That's on a revised plan. And then the second item was the height of the float, the 4 feet of clearance. Explained in a letter that I felt that was a safety issue and basically made it impossible to get in or out of a kayak at low tide, and that the alternative use would be people would simply not use the dock and drag their kayaks through the resource area, which is not an intended circumstance that anybody wants. So we submitted a letter, and we drafted a letter. It was a waiver request that's dated May 14th, and it requested 2 waivers against the height of the dock and the height of the float. And then we went on to review the special conditions and had some requested changes to the special conditions. Those are all in writing. I'm not going to go ahead and read them all. We submitted a revised plan, and this information was provided to DEP and Alex at the on-site. So it was our intent, as Brian said, to see if we could work this out locally. And with that, if everybody's had a chance to read everything, that we will ask the Commission how they feel.
Okay, well, you're asking for waivers. And if you have read our bylaw and you've read our regulations, that we have very particular rules for waivers. First of all, we only allow waivers under 2 conditions. One is a matter of public safety, and the other is a regulatory taking. A dock does not fit under a regulatory taking. Public safety issue, I gather you're raising a public safety issue, or you're just raising a safety issue for the owner of the property. I'm a little unclear. However, our waiver regulations do require that waivers be applied for at the time of the notice of intent hearing there's no provisions whatsoever to consider a waiver outside of that. So procedurally, we have no legal basis to consider a waiver at this time.
I would respectfully disagree with that because I think if we filed an amendment, we could also ask for a waiver through that process as well.
Couldn't we?
The waiver regulations, I don't know how closely you've read them.
Yeah, I've read them.
Are very clear about waivers need to be filed with the notice of intent application.
Okay.
So no further waivers. So no further, once the order is issued, no further waivers can be granted with an amendment or any other form of process.
That's how that's how it's written.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess we have our answer then.
Okay. All right. Well, we were hopeful that the commission might be willing to talk with us and work with us, but what I said earlier is that because we're in the superseding process and the permit was issued late, the bylaw is no longer enforceable, and so we thought maybe.
Well, that's still an open question as we have not yet received any official written notices from the DEP, and we have not been made any official replies to any submissions that you've made to them.
Okay.
So all of that is still an open question, and you did want to discuss the special order of conditions, but as we have no filed project and order of conditions, we can't really discuss any changes to an order of conditions that hasn't been filed and isn't in force. We did have plenty of time during the hearings to discuss the order of conditions. So I am unclear why you're coming back to discuss them at this time.
Because we were trying to be cooperative with the commission. But we understand your position, and that's why we're here. We were here to find out, and so we do appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Well, I will ask if the rest of the commission has anything they want to weigh in or add. Okay. And my understanding that tonight we would be discussing in a general way, from my discussion with Mark during our regulation hearing 2 weeks ago, that the purpose of us giving him an appointment tonight was to discuss in general the special conditions that we apply to docks. So coming in and having this on the agenda is a little bit of a surprise.
It shouldn't be a surprise. That was the request based on the letter dated May 14th and the results of the DEP on-site meeting. What we said to DEP was, hold off on your decision right now. We're going to try to work this out with the town. And this document dated May 14th, which was issued at the on-site, was our attempt to try to work it out with the town. But
that was not the tenor of our discussion 2 weeks ago.
Well, that was a separate, yes, Madam Chair, that was a separate discussion, and I'm happy to join. I wasn't aware that item was on tonight's discussion agenda. I'm happy to come again.
That was the sole agenda item that we actually discussed 2 weeks ago. This was not something that we discussed, so I'm just wanting to make that clear.
Alex?
But it is on the agenda for this specific property. It says 76 Old State Highway.
Correct.
That's how it went on the agenda, I guess, but that isn't what we had discussed 2 weeks ago when we discussed putting you on the agenda.
Well, that was a separate item 2 weeks ago. We were just talking, that was my friendly and cooperative review of the local bylaws, which is separate from this discussion. And I then by email supplied my suggestions again, and I said, okay, when you guys want to talk about it, I'm happy to talk about it. I wasn't notified of any meeting like that, and I'm still willing to do that, but that's separate from this discussion.
I don't know that was a notification, as that was something we agreed to specifically during that discussion, but okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to at a separate meeting, that's fine. But tonight was to discuss this filing and the superseding or the appeal process.
Okay, and as we've done that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the commission. We appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that was that. Next, we're going to talk about the work schedule, the schedule work session. Meet again with the with Shannon and Heather and review the coastal resilient regulations. So they have provided some dates. Maybe Alex just want to review that with us.
Yes. So after our last work session date, we talked about setting up another work session with Heather and Shannon. With my conversation with them, I've got a couple dates to propose to the commission tonight, and the idea for this next work session was to focus on drafted regulations, with the understanding that we'll still have future discussions about the bylaw, and if we use a certain model and which one to adopt, and so we will have future discussion about that. But whether or not we adopt the bylaw or not, we have the regulations, and those would be something that we would like to discuss with both Heather and Shannon. And so at this point, we're thinking sometime in mid-September. I'm going to pull up my calendar here.
I think Heather was only available one of the 2 weeks that.
Yeah, I've got the 14th, 15th, and 17th written down here.
But I think Shannon said she wasn't available on the 14th.
Shannon is available except for the 16th.
Oh, the 16th.
Okay. 16th and 28th. So I think it's the 14th, 15th, and 17th that works with us. And so I'm looking at the calendar here. Give me a second. 17th. 14th is a Monday. 15th is a Tuesday. And the 17th is a Thursday. This is an off week for CONSCOM. And I guess personal preference on my end. Perhaps if it works with the commission, either the 15th or the 17th.
I'm good for either.
I'm good with the 15th.
Only the 15th?
Preferably.
Okay.
I can be an itty bit flexible.
So if we, I guess, look at the 15th, is that a date that works with the rest of the commission?
I'm good for any.
Works for me. Everybody else? Did I see a nodding of heads for the 15th?
I think so.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. So then I will get back to Shannon and Heather tomorrow and let them know that we would like to schedule a follow-up work session to discuss drafted regulations for the flood resiliency zone on September 15th.
Now, did we want to do that all virtual again, or did we want to do that in person? Because I think when we get in digging into regs, it's somewhat easier in person.
Yeah, why don't I mean, I'm certainly in favor of meeting in person. I certainly think that's a productive way to meet and discuss about complex topics like this. So if the commission is okay with that, and if Heather and Shannon are available to meet in person, I would certainly make the recommendation to do so.
And certainly, even if we meet in person, they can have an option, but
it could be hybrid. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that at 6?
Yeah. Yes.
6. Yeah. Is that what we met at 6 o'clock for our last work session?
Yeah, that seems to be our standing work session time. That accommodates everybody but Joanne.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'd vote for earlier.
Is everybody available to eat earlier?
No.
Is that a yes? I didn't hear Chuck.
No.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Then I think, then I think we should stick with the 6 o'clock then.
Okay. So 6 o'clock, in person preferred.
Hybrid option. Okay.
And somebody should check and make that appointment for the room as well. I think it's a big enough group. Maybe we could have the Earl Mountain room, because the small meeting room, when you start putting in
Yeah. I
more than
think
our little group,
let's-
it
I would prefer to meet in the Earl Mountain room for that one. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll
I'll leave that. We'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, we'll submit a reservation for this room.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else anybody wants to discuss, or is it like 9:06 and everybody's done and
We've
we
got,
want a motion to adjourn?
I wanted to bring up the emergency certifications.
Oh,
as
I
well.
forgot that.
We were going to do that
Right.
under
It's
other
not
topics.
actually on
Yeah.
the agenda, but so I forgot about it. But yeah, tell us about the dolphins, please, Al.
Okay. So as the commission probably knows, over the last, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, there was several mass strandings of bottlenose dolphins, from Brewster up to Wellfleet. Most of those dolphins were rescued. Incidentally, there were a couple that didn't make it, and so we had 2 dolphins wash up off of, or I should say, 3 dolphins washed up off of Harm's Way, and then 2 dolphins washed up off of Kingsbury Beach. These dolphins were located on private property, away from the town landing. Last year, the town had a sizable basking shark wash up on the beach, and after that, we did put together a policy for marine mammals and cartilaginous fish to capture the basking sharks as well. And so through that policy, when these animals wash up deceased on the beach, if it's on private property, that the town will help coordinate their removal. And so that's what we did the other week. We coordinated with Brundage Site Works and the private property owners to have these dolphins removed. We did have heavy equipment on the beach, front end loaders to remove the dolphins, and as such, we thought it was necessary to issue emergency certification for their removal. And so the dolphins were removed from the private property to a dumpster at the town landing, which the DPW provided, and then once all the dead dolphins were collected, the DPW buried those dolphins in the town pit, and so that's where they are today. And so I'll also mention that since these dolphins are on private property, the property owners did pay the cost for their removal, so that wasn't a cost that was taken on by the town. Any questions on that? Oh, I'll also add, we Harm's Way is, as we know, is a pretty environmentally sensitive area, and so we did coordinate with Mass Audubon for a plover monitor to be out there during the removal as well. So that was exciting.
And that was getting the dolphins off the beach right before a weekend.
Right before the weekend, so we were out there at 6:45 in the morning trying to beat the crowds, picking up dead, stinky dolphins.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it.
So,
life of conservation.
yeah, but then you had to go and collect the money. So that was probably, I don't know which was the worst part, right? Anyway, so we as a commission do need to ratify the emergency certification. And it wasn't on the agenda, but we're considering this under the provision that it was something the chair did not anticipate ahead of the meeting, and therefore we can act on it. We are required to certify an emergency, ratify an emergency certification within, I believe, 15 days of when it was issued. So it needed to get done within this time frame. So if somebody would like to make a motion to ratify the emergency certification as described by Alex.
I'll also mention real quick. So we had three separate emergency certifications. I did one. I did one for each property.
Okay, that's important. So we're going to have a motion to certify three. Do we need to mention the property addresses?
Yeah, I'm going to pull that up right now.
This could be officially official.
Emergency certifications. So it was 165 Harms Way, 245 Harms Way, and 45 Longstreet Lane.
We know all of those people. Okay, so if we could have a motion to ratify the emergency certification for 165 Harms Way, 245 Harms Way, and 45 Longstreet Lane.
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
Okay, Cinnamon?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, that ends our agenda.
That's a wrap.
What?
That's a wrap.
At
And
9:12.
And I'll also mention my parents joined us tonight too, so they were able to see the meeting.
That's nice. So they got to see a really long meeting. I hope they found it interesting and enjoyed watching you at work. Okay, so if we can have a
Karen, this is Wayne.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to continue the meeting all night long, as I get paid by the hour, and the renovations to my house came in much more than expected.
Well, I think maybe we can try that at the September in-person work session. Everybody will
okay.
bring their PJs and we can just go all night.
That would be great. Thanks. I'll
Okay.
program that in.
Okay,
I'm so impressed with his parents. They must have loved it.
I love my parents too.
Yeah. So we need the motion to adjourn in a second, please.
Move to adjourn.
Oh,
Second.
okay. Okay. And I'm going to say we love Alex, and I'm going to call the vote. Janet?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
I'm a yes. And Wayne, do you want to vote yes also?
Yes.
Okay. And with that, thank you, everybody, and good night.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Good night.
Everyone.